Welcome to Ground Up Growth, where we share entrepreneurial insights, business strategies, and personal growth lessons to help listeners build success from the ground up.
Welcome back to Ground Up Growth. We are diving into part 2 with Trey Bozeman, Bozeman Meat Company. If you did not hear the first part, I highly recommend going back and hearing Trey's story and his background, how he grew up in the cattle industry and how it morphed into wading through COVID and getting to where he is now. So on this part, we're going to take a deeper dive into the cattle industry, and me and Trey are going to flesh out some pointed topics that I think would be very, very helpful and insightful on the cattle industry, and go from there. So
sounds good.
All right, Trey. Let's see tell us a little bit about your take on the present market for cattle and what the future looks like, because we hit on it in the first part, but it's a very volatile industry, and everybody's talking about how good it's been here lately. I guess tell us your take on the current state of the market, what the future looks like, and then also I want to talk about how it compares to row crop. And we all know the troubles and headwinds that row crop people are facing with input cost. How does that all correlate with the cattle industry?
Yeah.
I may have threw too much.
No. It's I enjoy it. My brain thinks about this a lot. So current thoughts on the market right now. Cattle market is at an all-time high. Live cattle and feeder cattle are going for a lot of money, and the rancher is making money right now. The producer is making money right now, which is great. As to put it this way, I hate that it takes a historic liquidation of cattle for a rancher to make money. And what I mean by that is, we all remember the drought from 2 years ago. That really spurred on a lot of this. When we can kind of go back to the grasslands, especially out west, there was no water out west, so people couldn't feed their cattle. So what do? They sell them. Well, when people start doing that, more people start selling. Prices go up. There's no grass to farm hay, so hay gets more expensive. So people can't afford hay, so they just sell their cattle. And you looked at this giant sell-off that's been taking years to recover from, as far as the demand, because it takes two.
That was 2 years ago. The historic sell-off.
Yes, and it takes 2 years for a cattle, one steer to really get to finished weight. When I say it real fast, like 700 pounds, 900 pounds, 1,200 pounds, 1,400 pounds, like it just happens overnight.
That's a lot of grazing.
That's a lot of grazing. Yeah, it's like 18 to 24 months. Yeah. It just depended on somewhere in that window. It takes a long time to recover from. So while the prices are really good right now, it's a volatile market. It's not guaranteed that it's going to stay that way. It's great for the ranchers now, but I don't want to be subject to the ebbs and flows of a volatile market in the cattle business.
Right.
I would rather create my own product and be consistent about it.
And I'm cutting you off when you get into the rest of the questions about the future and stuff, but it's just triggering thoughts of mine. What input costs do you incur as a rancher versus row crop? So row crop, you've got, herbicides, you got seed, you got fertilizer, you got all these input costs. What do your input costs on your farm look like?
Main input cost would be, and this varies for rancher to rancher, but your main input costs are going to be your feed cost. Your hay production cost, your cattle costs themselves, if you're buying cattle, or if you already own your cattle, it's the maintenance cost of toting a mama cow through the winter time, more feed cost, things of that nature.
Vaccinations and stuff, are those?
There's some vaccination costs, because if you want to have a good cattle program, you want to have a good herd immunity to respiratory illnesses and diseases. Because if one illness in a group of cattle can wipe out the entire group if the group does not have proper vaccinations. And respiratory illnesses is usually the main one. And you could get into the deep dive and all that if you want to, but I'm not a vet, so I only know like a surface
curious,
level.
So like from a veterinarian standpoint, is that something where you have like a vet that just comes out and just looks at your herd and kind of preventative maintenance, or is it something where it's a reaction deal where like, all right, this cow's acting up or acting funny, or, like as far as the respiratory stuff, is there any preventative maintenance short of vaccinations that would help you versus just being reactive to like, oh, that cow's got
everything is preventative. So if you're doing things the right way, what you'll do is you'll get on a protocol or a plan by a veterinarian, and you'll treat your cattle through a yearly process of how recommended via veterinarian. So everything is preventative. So you don't have to act reactionary, because once you have to act reactionary, it can be too late sometimes.
So the vet's calling you like, hey, Trey, come get your flu shot.
Yeah, but in a sense, there is. And there's right now, that's a very sensitive topic to a lot of people, because there's a lot of myths and misinformation about cattle vaccines and antibiotics and stuff.
Being in the meat.
Yeah, being in the meat business. And that is something that where, as a producer, you want to treat your cattle the best way you possibly can. You also want to pay attention to consumer trends, whether you like it or not, and what do people want in their meat products. So people don't want, I'll give you one right now, a myth.
So you're telling me you don't have a Pfizer edition meat?
Yeah.
Pfizer package.
Yeah. So shocker, I hate to tell you, but there's not just meat sitting on the shelves that's pumped full of antibiotics like people might say that there are. Yeah. The USDA is very strict about antibiotic withdrawal dates on cattle all over the country, no matter what farm they come from, no matter what feedlot, no matter what packer, and there's random carcass testing daily everywhere to ensure that there is no residue of anything such of that nature in a cattle carcass.
And that's way more intense than I would imagine the general public realizes.
Yeah, exactly. And
so like the USDA, I'm assuming they've got field inspectors that maybe just pop up and say, "Hey, Trey,
not as much
I'm coming on your ranch today."
Not as much field inspectors, more in the meat side of things. Okay. So, what they would do. So, like if we had cattle that, I get randomly tested at our processor by the USDA. It's random, and they'll do carcass testing to ensure that nothing doesn't come up positive or anything of that nature. Because if that comes back to the rancher, and that can cause you a problem. It can
put a spotlight on you.
It puts a spotlight on you for sure. And we believe that you should treat a sick cow like you would treat your sick child. If your kid's sick and an antibiotic's gonna make your kid better, you're gonna give your kid an antibiotic. We do the same thing with our cattle. However, if the consumer doesn't want antibiotics in our cattle, we don't sell it to them. So if we do have to treat a sick animal, we'll take it another route. We'll do something else with it, but it's always going to meet a USDA withdrawal date and whatnot. And there's a lot of red tape that goes into special claims like that, and we just haven't quite gotten there yet. But we try to pay attention to what people want, and no cattleman's just lining their cattle up giving them antibiotics for the heck of it. If that
right, yeah.
And I can only speak for my industry, but I can't comment on chicken or pork or how that works.
For sure. So maybe not as much input cost across the board as row crop, maybe.
There's not as much. It's not as much. I would say no. There's not as much fuel costs. There's not as much. Now you still need fuel. And it just depends on the size of the operation too.
Right.
It's not as much. You're not fertilizing near as much ground as somebody who's farming soybeans or corn. You may be fertilizing a couple 100 acres of hay fields, which is still expensive, especially it was a few years ago. But it's definitely not to the input cost of what the row cropping market is. Those guys right now, it's funny. Right now, the cattleman's doing great, and the row crop guy's doing poor.
Well, that's where I was kind of curious. I mean, do you, going back to the kind of like, what do you see for the future? Do you see row crop transitioning back into cattle growth?
How deep do you want to go? Do you have a tinfoil hat around? I don't know, man. I think about this a lot.
I mean, but you would have to, I mean, the farmer's set up with all the equipment and all the things for that to just uproot and transition into being a rancher to me, you can't chase the good times like you would. That just wouldn't turn out well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't imagine it's beneficial for the people that were set up running a ranch, when the cyclical turns up. But
Yeah.
what's your
Like I
thoughts
said,
on the future of the cattle industry, though?
see it going one of two ways. I see it becoming just one huge globalized, vertically integrated system. The way that the pork and the poultry industries have gone to where the big meat packers vertically integrate to the point to where the ranchers working for the packers now and not themselves, like that is. And Tyson owns their chicken farms. They employ farmers and ranchers to operate their chickens all the way through the process. It hasn't happened yet in the beef industry because the beef industry is so highly decentralized. I think there's 91% of all cattle that come through the food chain system come from independent family farms, which is
Wow.
which is not the same as pork or poultry. I can see a world to where, and I hope this doesn't happen. I can see a world to where the meat packers find a way.
You already seen that in the row crop, though.
Yeah.
Institutional buyers are coming in buying big tracts of row crop. And next thing you know, you're still working on your farm, but you're a farm manager for a hedge fund.
Yeah.
And it's a sad deal, but like you got no option.
No option because your neighbor who would have bought it 20 years ago at just a phone call, they're not buying anymore because they're dealing with the same problem in row crop land. It is scary.
Yeah,
it's very scary.
I'm not a conspiracy guy, but like the whole big ag, there may be something going on in the backdrop that's forcing things through a vertically integrated deal to stack the deck in their favor. And,
Yeah.
that's kind of spooky, but man, 91% of independent people, because like I feel like your cattle ranchers are going to be the last people to let go.
They're stubborn like that.
Yeah.
Which is to me a
It's
good
good.
thing. Yeah, it is a good
It's
thing.
what we need.
And we do need that, and we need more people. We need
And that
more.
was going to be my next question. Was like, for the future, do you see are new people getting in the business? Is it more of a dying breed type thing?
It's a dying breed type thing. I think there's only 9% of farmers today are under 35 years old.
9%.
Whereas in like 1970, I think it was 72, 78, somewhere in the 70s, it was over 20% of farmers were 35 years old. So it's been a sharp decrease. And I'll tell you why most people aren't getting into it is because historically, you made less and less money every single year.
Yeah, their parents probably tell them, look, don't do this.
Don't do this. Exactly. People tell me that. Right. Look.
Right.
You'd be surprised. You tell people you're going to, come back on the farm, you want to kind of see it through and want to pay it forward and leave it better than you found it. And they'll look at you like, oh, poor guy. It's shocking. But the alternative is to do what we're doing. It's to do what I'm doing. And that is you need more people that can see a different way forward, that can grow a direct-to-consumer market, grow a direct-to-consumer method of doing things. And they're going back to not raising a commodity and raising a product. And what they're doing is they're selling their product at a price that they put on it, rather than a price they'll take from it. If we encourage that, if we can move more towards that, and it does take society to do that,
Right.
If we can move more towards that direction, I think that more young people will begin to come back to the farm, begin to come back doing the things that people told them not to do.
Right.
And I think that's what it's going to take. I think it's just going to take proving to young folks that you can be profitable in this business. And I'm trying to figure that out. I'm not there yet. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it'll take. That's why I'm hopeful about the future of the business. I think that there needs to be a lot of Bozeman Meat Companies all over America. I want to be able to serve. I'll never be able to I can't feed the world. I can't feed the whole state of Mississippi, but I can feed my community. And if more people in the cattle industry see it that way, we can make a difference. We can keep a highly decentralized system like that where family farms keep operating, keep running, and leave it better than they found it for the next generation. And that's what I want to do.
I love that idea. And I mean, like, I'm all in. Like, as far as like consumer wise,
Yeah.
like, I would pay you double what I would pay for the same steak at the grocery store because I know your story, I know your passion, it's authentic, and that cow has been cared for like a child all the way through the process.
Absolutely.
And I think there's more people out there that, and it's almost, I'm just thinking through this, it's almost like if they were more people, the more people that are privy to your story and can, if they could just digest this podcast, they would have the same feeling. And I think that's what it's going to take across the country. Like you're saying, you've got to have, every little town's going to have that, but that's going to have to be, there's going to have to be a passion there. There's going to have to be some motivation, some creativity. Cause I mean, I would think, you know, a cattle rancher probably normally does not possess creative marketing skills.
Right. And
so like, you're a unique, yeah, you're an outlier in that, and it's worked great for you. But maybe that's, you know, they pair up with a local marketing agency or something, and just, you know, they still can think outside the box. And I think, man, I like that. I think that's probably the saving grace for sure, to stay away from decentralized. So
yeah, that's what it takes. You're gonna have to have a new way of thinking, and you know, farmers aren't privy to change, especially the older ones. I mentioned that like 9% of farmers are under 35 years old. The average farmer is 58.
Wow.
Yes. So, and you know, I know most 58-year-olds aren't willing to change if they've been doing something for 60 years one way. But it does take you getting creative, and you have to kind of keep up with the times, and you have to integrate technology where you can. You know, I think you should always be learning, should always be growing. You should hold true to the things that you know work and things you believe in, the things you were taught, but also, like you said, have an open mind and be willing to learn. You know, knowing that you don't know it all will definitely benefit you in going forward.
Right.
I try to like, I mean, I want to soak up anything I can from anybody. You know, the moment you think you've got it figured out, it's a dangerous spot to be in, you know?
Yes, very much so. I agree. You mentioned stewardship and that being one of your passions. Talk on that a little bit.
Yeah. So through all of this, Bozeman Meat Company, starting this direct-to-consumer operation, with all the hard things that come with that and getting a business up and running, there's an underlying thing that means a lot to me personally, which is the stewardship of the place that I inherited that was built before me by my great-grandfather and by my grandfather and my dad. And I do feel a responsibility personally to steward what I have been given and to keep it going and to leave it better than I found it for the next generation after me. I'm going to show you how weird I am. There's this word that I heard it on, maybe, I can't remember where I heard it, but I've been contemplating on this word, and it's a Japanese word called kagyo. And it is basically a word that defines loyalty and stewardship to a family, craft, or trade. And it's really cool to me. In Japan, apparently, you have family businesses that are hundreds of years old.
Wow.
Yeah. And I guess in our westernized way of thinking, sometimes maybe we lose a little bit of sight of that. Duty and responsibility were some other words that kind of represent that definition. A duty and responsibility to one's family, trade, or craft. And we don't talk like that in the West that much. You know, and not everybody may feel that way. And I'll definitely think that people should go do what they want to do. I definitely think you should.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should downgrade somebody who does want to steward something that they have been given in a good way and to grow it and to leave it better than they found it. And I sometimes think that we don't talk that way about that as we do of like, go carve your own path, go do your own thing, go do what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's an interesting way to look at it. And I agree, because it's not, the thing I like about it is it's not money centric. You're not sitting there, it's not around money. Like, there's an underlying part there that is stewardship.
Yeah.
And stewardship doesn't make money.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I have a college degree. I could go get a job somewhere else if I wanted to, and may have to one day. I don't know, but I want to be doing what I'm doing, and you know, it's a tug that I feel,
Right.
Because, and I think it stems from just a lot of gratitude, because I'm not ignorant to the fact that part of the reason I'm only in this business is because how I was born into a ranching family, because it is very, very hard, dang near impossible for someone to just up and decide that they're going to start a cattle ranch and be in the beef business, and they don't come from an operation like that. Mm-hmm. The input costs are too high, the land costs are too high to get up and going.
Right.
So I'm just grateful for that. And I don't know, it's just something, the older I get, having my own daughter now, you think like that,
It's
man.
different.
I mean, you start thinking 30 years down the road, and you're like, what am I going to leave them? What are they, you know, and she can go do what she wants to do. But if she says, Dad, I want to come do what you do, I'm like, come on.
Right.
You know, you just give them the responsibility that they can handle at the time, you know?
Right. I
That's
like that. I mean, I think, man, you know, everything goes back to your passion, and you need to do things that you're passionate about. And there's got to be a pretty large level of fulfillment that you get, you know, outside of commodity prices and all that. Just like, you know, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the just being on the tractor and having your AirPods in. There's people that would kill for that.
Yes.
And you don't really know it till you get stuck in that. I always make the joke that when I was dating my wife, she was working at Farm Bureau, and she wanted me to come up there and eat lunch with her. And I went up in there, and they had like a cafeteria in Farm Bureau, and everybody in there there wasn't one person smiling. And I'm like, this ain't life.
Yeah.
You know, no knock to Farm Bureau, but just the you know, I ain't gonna go down that road, but the cubicle life.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You know, I mean, it's just, there's got to be major fulfillment in what you're doing, because you're passionate about it, you know. Anyway.
I'm very, very, very lucky, very blessed to do what I do. I mean, I was talking to my dad the other day, and it was just like, we were at the shop, and, you know, it was a nice, cool, sunny day. It was like 50 degrees and sunny, and my dad was just like, I just love being out in this weather. And I was just like, I know, me too. It's really cool. Just some people don't get to do that, you know? And I'm grateful. I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful. So I want to do my part and stewarding it on so I can pass that on to the next generation.
Trey, you're doing an amazing job. And I'm very thankful that you came and shared your story and gave our listeners some insight into the cattle industry. And I'm going to be rooting for you.
So I appreciate it, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Absolutely.